Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Lower Merion School District's April 24th Facilities and Purchasing Meeting. We will follow the same way process that we've used in the last few meetings, is that we refer you to raise your hand if you have a comment, and please keep comments on topic to what we're discussing in the agenda, and please state your name and the area where you live in Lower Merion. And if I haven't forgotten anything, should we start with the first agenda item?
Any questions? The bills.
Shaky. Okay, does anybody have any questions on the list of bills?
No.
Is Shayna on? I don't see her here.
I don't think she has joined us yet. Lynn, are you sharing the screen?
Yeah, so maybe we should give it another minute for Shayna just because it's 9:29. And then can we just also share the screen so that the community can see the agenda and the specific items as well, please?
Well, I know we're having technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run downstairs because that's where Lynn's housed in the building, and I'm going to see if I can help. Hopefully she
Okay.
has it up and running by then.
Okay. So are we just gonna?
Yeah. Here we go. It's starting.
Okay, great. Can everybody see the list of bills okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't know if Shayna's on yet. She is coming. She had a computer restart she's waiting for. I have a question on the list of bills if nobody else does. I was wondering on numbers 71 through 74. Yeah. I noticed that it's the same invoice number and the same dates and almost the same numbers. And I just wondered, but is that typical to break that out between learning support and regular ed?
What it is, so Agora has students that are special ed is one tuition rate, and then we have regular ed students also that we pay tuition for. So they're broken out, and it's 2 different months, and it's the PO number, not the invoice number you're looking at.
Oh, yeah, sorry, PO number. I didn't have the thing at the top.
So that's typical what we do. Not every school has special ed and regular ed, so schools that do have it, charter schools are broken out like that.
Okay, and why? And if it's a different cost, why are the numbers the same except for 1 cent different?
It's probably just rounding. The 1 cent is probably just rounding.
Okay, so it should be the same. They should be mirroring each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. At the end, in the end, we pay the same amount.
Okay. That's the only question I had. Maybe we open up to any community members who may have a question? Are there any hands raised?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. So, and Shayna does not appear to be on the meeting yet. So how about we move forward to the next item on the agenda and wait to approve the bills until Shayna comes on
She's coming on now. Here she comes.
She's on now. Oh, okay.
Yep. Here we go.
Oh, we have a question from Adrian Seltzer too.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to raise, hi, Adrian Seltzer, Winwood. Again, I'm going to raise the issue of when you have credit card bills, you don't have who the actual vendors are on there, and that's not how you should You should know the vendor. The vendor is in Amazon Capital Services. That's who you're paying. But that's not who you've gotten the service from, or the books, or the general supplies. That should be something, or the same with you have another credit card in here somewhere too. And that should be the whole, you should know who you're spending to. Mr. Lil said, oh, well, I just woke up, I'm sorry. They're all, regular vendors that are approved, but I can't tell from looking at that if you're spending an exorbitant amount of money with one vendor versus another. It's just not transparent.
Okay,
So
duly
that would be
noted.
good if you had them add that.
Oh,
And as the governmental, as the board, you're supposed to be overseeing the administration, and you can have them do that.
I know in the prior thing when we answered, it was cost prohibitive because we don't have they don't have the current personnel to do that. Because it doesn't come over with the numbers, but maybe Mr. Orlando do you have anything further to say on that, or?
Oh, what? Right, it was Mr. Orlando. I'm sorry.
Talked about this, I think, last month and month before about
Mhm.
how information is obtained, and it would take an exuberant amount of manual data entry because these are hundreds or thousands of entries on there. And it's just not cost prohibitive. I don't have the staff.
It's only the visa. The other ones have it. You have right above
I
Visa
understand.
Promotion
Yeah,
Services,
I understand it.
TSA Consulting Group.
I think we just said it'll take a lot of manual entry to put in the credit card vendor information, and we just don't have the staff to do that.
I'll make a photocopy.
We also
And
have a question. Oh, I'm so sorry. From Tanya
no, I was just
Savage.
saying, and Mr. Orlando, you also had indicated before that if there was an issue with any specific line, or a question about any specific line, that you'd be able to go back and specifically look at that. So if a community member or a board member had an issue or a concern about one specific, then you'd be able to go back and look at it. Is that correct?
That is correct. We
Okay.
have paper information.
So I have to file a right to know this.
I don't know if you, I mean, I don't know if that's the case. I think that if there's a specific question about a specific charge, we'd be happy to look into it. I think the problem is that based on the current, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Orlando, but it sounds like, and we've gone over this last month, was that based on the current system that we use, it would be too difficult from not only just a cost, but from a man hour perspective to be able to list all of the specific purchases, that information on this list of bills. But we're happy to provide, or the administration's happy to provide, if there's a question about a specific line or a specific purchase, they're happy to look into that and get that information to you as soon as possible. It's just that on this list of bills where there's thousands of different transactions that go on, it is difficult for them to, it would be impossible, well, not impossible, but it would be extremely um, timely for them to go through that.
Um, you only have,
Go ahead, Adrian.
yeah, it's just the credit card things. That's not thousands of entries.
It is. Yeah, these are all like not just one line item. There could be hundreds of invoices that make the total the total line item. So it is voluminous number of transactions. It could be every month.
Well,
I
can't
think,
you
I think
automate some of them as save, like, I know like in Quicken, you can, if something comes in from one vendor that I buy from every month or a couple times a month, that's a memorized transaction that I can just hit Control Enter and put in. I don't have to type in the whole thing. Doesn't your program allow you to do something like that? You have to type in air and gas
companies,
technologies every time. You
I'd
have
have to
to,
go back and look. There's certain things that are electronically sent and some are paper copies. So it depends upon the vendor.
Yeah. And there are controls in place before things are they have to be approved. It has to be approved vendors and they have to be approved at the, I guess, the building level. Is that correct?
Building
I mean, you have regular ed here, general supplies from, is that all the same vendor from line 915 to,
not necessarily, not necessarily.
well, then it should be,
It could be. I don't know yet. We have to go and look at it. So it depends
well, you
upon the
could,
transaction.
that's stuff that you could put in there. I
We have
mean,
to manually put that
that's
in there.
thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Can I offer a suggestion? Would it be possible? I know that we did this a little bit last month, but Mr. Orlando, would it be possible to take a look and see again about our capabilities with this system and how much information that potentially we could provide? Can we also maybe take a look at other schools around and the systems that they use and how they provide their information? And then for the next meeting, we can provide a little bit more guidance on our capabilities based on this system?
Yeah, so if I could just add, me being new to this process, we'll check it out. I'll have discussions with Mr. Orlando, and we'll let the public know and the board know as well.
Okay.
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, now,
Ms. Schreiber also has a message or a
yeah,
question.
okay.
Hi. It was partly, it was similar that whether or not it seems it would be straightforward to, in this changing world of new technologies, that there's probably something available that would allow us to quickly dump the data from a Visa card into something that's easily usable. You're right, it doesn't make sense to manually re-enter everything, but if that's not possible, and we're actually still using paper documents, perhaps it would be it would meet the same goal if we could just have one central repository where they're just scanned and housed, so that anybody who's interested in seeing, for example, all the charges in the $15,210, that they could just go and figure, okay, here's the folder where all the receipts, paper or electronic, for the 15,000, these are where they can be found, so that it's not the most cumbersome thing would be if one of us has to reach out to Vic Orlando and have him provide line by line. It should just be available somewhere. And then my second suggestion is that I believe these are all still in PDF for the public. And so when we see it, even if you try to dump it into a program and shift it over to something else, sometimes it doesn't translate that well. I'm assuming on your end, it's already in Excel. Well, it says it's in Excel. Can you post the Excel document instead of the PDF so that the public kind of can use it in the same way that you guys can on your side? Is there a reason to make it a PDF?
I would have,
It is an Excel spreadsheet if you go in on the agenda and hit list of bills.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I was just going to come in and say that. Yes, it
Oh
is.
my gosh. Thank you for that.
glad we could make you happy.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
and,
This is
and what you suggested, we'll include that in what Dr. Ranelli looks at with Vic Orlando.
oddly, it comes up as a PDF on my end, but I'll figure out why that's going
Well,
on. And
And we'll look into whether we can get that for next month, get an Excel document up for.
thank Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and Shayna, you have come on. Is there any questions that you have?
Yeah, apologies for my late entry. My school
No.
laptop decided it needed to reboot as soon as I was signing into this meeting. No, I am good, and I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and are we good to move this forward for our Monday's meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No.
On to the next item, the purchasing report.
So the first item up is two-way radios. We did an RFP and we're recommending Community Systems Solutions. This is generally to replace 90 analog phones and a couple other additional phones for digital two-way radios for Gladwin Elementary for their special ed department. And to $21,510. We are inquiring through Montgomery County Intermediate
Backwards.
funding that would cover the cost of these two-way radios.
Okay, thank you. So is there any questions from board members?
Not from me.
No,
thank you.
thanks.
Okay.
No, thank
And
you.
thanks. I'm good. I'm good. So if we want to move on to the next item.
The second item is for tree removal at 1835 County Line Road. Architects had looked at the property and considered these trees to be a risk to the mansion itself. So this is maintenance work of the trees around the immediately surrounding the auditorium, the mansion, for the preservation of the building itself. It is recommended the pricing from King County Tree Service for tree removal at 1835 County Line Road be approved in the amount of $11,500.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
I have a tree related question, but not related to this specific item. So if we wanted to do this and then I could get back to it, that would be fine. Or I could just go now.
I'm fine.
Okay. So I just wondered if we have anywhere, if you happen to know, and if not, I can follow up possibly with the policy committee or with Mr. Lill on whether or not the board or the administration has a policy on what kind of trees we plant and what I'm thinking more about making sure that we're not planting invasive species, things like Bradford pear and Norwegian maple, things like that, that sort of take over our local ecosystem. I was just wondering if we have a guideline for what kind of trees we do plant when we're planting trees on purpose in our district.
So our grounds department basically will review what projects or trees or planting that we will do internally. Bradford pears are something that we do not select because they are a problem. And we will also choose species based on whether they're better for a spring planting or a fall planting. Now that's for all of our internal tree work or things that we're under control of. For like
I
a large
understand that
project,
this is not stuff we planted at that house.
right. So for like a large project, like Black Rock or some other type of renovation, land development kind of dictates species. I think they try to avoid those as well. But we have to follow the approved plan. But for like Arbor Day celebrations or voluntary things, we control internally what species go in, and we avoid the ones that are more problematic.
Do you know if we have any of those that were already planted that are on our school properties?
Not specifically.
Okay. Megan, do you know if there's a policy for what against planting invasive trees or something? I just feel like it would be an easy thing to pop in there if we don't have it.
I don't believe we have it set forth in policy. It's as Ken explained, it's a practice of the district to
Cool.
take those
Okay.
steps.
I'll think about what I want to say more on that, and I'll pop you an email. Not a big deal at all. We were talking about trees, so it was in my mind. So thank you for that.
Ms. Schreiber put into the chat feature that it is in the township code restrictions for that.
Great. Thank you, Tanya.
Yes, and usually they're, I know from working with Mr. Lill and Mr. Copeland, they're both or something that they do consider and work with. And if there's a arborist or that, they will work with an they have been working with arborists from outside vendors or from the forestry that will make suggestions for trees that are better for the area and that. Okay, is there any other questions, or should we move on to the last, I believe that's the last one, the paper?
Paper bid. So we participate in MCIU cooperative bid purchasing every year for our copy of paper, as all the Montgomery County schools do. This year was awarded to WB Mason, and it's $28.11 per carton. We use approximately about 33,500 cartons for the current year, which pretty much we use for the upcoming year. Just as a FYI, this year we paid $30.33. You see, it's down a couple dollars from the bid price.
Thank you. Any questions from the board about this item?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Not me.
Okay.
No, thank you.
And are there any questions from the community? I don't see any hands raised, but okay. Okay, with that, are we okay to move the purchasing report for Monday's meeting?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Next item, district contracts. Now, to note, district contracts, unless anything's been added, these items were all approved by the to be moved forward through by the curriculum committee.
To Mr. Weinstein, is there any questions on the curriculum? I think there's one for student services also.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want me to present the 10 items from curriculum, or?
Right, you can give us a summary. Is there any?
Yeah, okay.
A summary, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Schaffmeister. As you mentioned on Monday evening, we presented these 10. 4 of them are curriculum in nature, and there's 6 software purchases. The first 2 are health, middle school and high school renewals, a new edition of the same series. Next on the agenda is Link It. Link It is our data warehousing system that we capture all student data, K to 12, that's academic in nature. Next, you will find Schoology from Power School, and Schoology is our learning management system for secondary, comprised of grades 5 to 12. Following that is EduLink, which we call in the district PAE-TEP, and that is a commonly used software that we use for our teacher evaluation system that complies with Act 13 with PDE. The next item, Savvis Investigations K to 4, is a renewal of our K to 4 math curriculum for all students in grades K to 4. Nearpod is next, which is a software that we use at the secondary level that is for lesson design and captures lessons. It's an engaging resource. Following that is our Cengage, which is our AP Gov and government resource. That is a renewal. Following that is what's called Cengage Gallon Context for Education, and that is a research database that we use for students getting access to periodicals and the latest research, making sure they're discerning the correct information as opposed to a Wikipedia or what they may find on social media. It's a commonly used at the university level. And finally is Seesaw. And I mentioned Schoology is our 5 to 12 kind of learning management system, and Seesaw does similar functions for K to 4 and communicates with families learning that's happening in the primary grades. and all in elementary school. And I'm open to questions on those topics.
Well, anybody from the board?
The only question I had was, is that for Seesaw, is that being used? Because and what, or is that more of like a curriculum question? I was just curious. Is that rolled out in all of the schools, and to what extent? I don't know if
All 4 schools are using it. Teachers use it, engage with students. But there's multiple different functions with that, but it also typically serves as a portfolio for young people for our young learners, where they capture the work that's there.
And when you said the 4 schools,
6 schools. I'm sorry if I
the
said
6
4. I
schools.
misspoke. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly or Shayna, any questions?
No,
Nope,
thanks.
I'm good.
We
Thank
went
you.
over it on Monday, so I'm good.
Right. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The Seltzer has a question, Melanie.
Okay. Or should we do the last one, Naviance, which I know that's used throughout the area, and throughout the school for, students in counseling. Is Miss Fraser here, and does she have anything
I'm
to
here.
add?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is a renewal contract, so board is familiar with this one.
Mhm.
We use Naviance right through our counseling department. It
Mhm.
really allows us to be able to do career exploration activities, the tracking of those activities that we do. College application comes through Naviance. It really ties with our required K-12 guidance plan through the state, which is which is like Chapter 339, Act 339, which is career and technical education standards. So it all ties in with that. Again, this is a renewal contract. There's a 7% increase from last year, and it's also based on like the number of student users.
Yeah. Seems like databases and CRMs are having big jumps this year, all the way around. Okay. Any questions on that from the board?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Well, I actually, Mel, were there jumps in prior years? Is that normal or is this unusual?
Usually there's enough, but I just know from where I work and looking at other things that for some reason this area of services is they're increasing quite somewhat in the double digits sometimes.
Oh,
The previous, Kimberly, the previous year jump, I don't have the percent increase, and I'm not that great of a mathematician to figure it out in my head, but it's about a $2,000 increase from 23 to 24. So we do see a small increase. We do see an increase each year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Kimberly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. If that, we'll move on. Ms. Selzer, you have a question?
Yes. How do you measure the effectiveness of these programs? Are there measurable goals that they meet? Because I see that and what are the goals that you state? I'm especially concerned about the math program because I know math is a issue for a lot of kids in school.
I think this is actually, isn't this math program just a 1-year extension that we're looking into a new math program? If I'm looking at if we're both speaking about the same one.
Mel, can I jump in?
Yeah.
Adrian, this was really talked about in depth really effectively. So if you're interested in the answer to that question so that we don't spend another half an hour on it.
Should I go watch the curriculum meeting?
The curriculum meeting specifically when Mr. Weinstein was talking about this, because this is and Mr. Lilly, this is a 1-year extension of the K-4 math program. And currently they're evaluating 2 other math programs to be piloted and then we'll be purchasing for next year. So this is the last year of this math program. And then next year we will be purchasing something different because the top 2 they're currently considering is not what we're currently using. So it's really just because we absolutely have to have a math curriculum and it is working on being updated to best practices and the preferences of our teachers and administrators.
And there'll be measurable goals for those programs when you get them in?
It is something the board has asked for. It's not something I can speak to the details of because I don't know them.
Yeah. exactly. The board, we
Okay, I
always are
wasn't
asking
asking
about that.
what the measurable goals would be, but just that there would be measurable goals.
Yeah, the board requests measurable goals. So we will work.
Excellent.
We'll work with.
Okay, and I had it, just as an aside, I had it backwards. You are showing the Excel spreadsheets on your screen share, but the public can only access a PDF.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll look for that to next month. Thank you for letting us know that.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks. So are we, if there's no more questions, are we good to move this forward for the Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, on to moving along. Common market agreement. Who is speaking to this one?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Mo Hussein, Director of Nutritional Services. I would like to introduce the agreement. So it was a common market. We like to utilize them as another vendor that provide fresh and local fruit and vegetables option for our students. I'm personally excited about them. They bring fresh fruit and vegetables in season from local farms in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Many school districts have started to utilize their services, and I would like to add it to our Lower Merion School District students.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
So, Shayna,
Hi, Jason.
Kimberly?
Okay, I was just going to say that just ask if their pricing is pretty much in line with similar suppliers.
This is correct. So prices of perishable items fluctuate throughout the school year, and we always compare prices before we make purchase, especially for perishable items like fruit and vegetables. So we are utilizing 3 other vendors, and the prices I saw so far are competitive.
Thank you.
Kimberly or Jason? Or Jason, you had something, right?
I was just going to ask, so there's not a dollar value on this. This just provides you with the opportunity to work with them going forward, correct?
This is correct. There is no commitment to purchase anything.
Perfect. Thank you.
We do have one question. Should we be anticipating an increase in the prices for foods?
Not for the upcoming school year, not for
Okay.
the 25-26 school year.
I see. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. Okay. Is there doesn't look like there's any questions from the from the community. So are we good to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then Power School renewal.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of Felicity Hanks, and this is a product that we've long used for the purposes of hiring and evaluating staff. This is a renewal, and we are there's no change to the program itself. It's simply a renewal for next year.
So this is separate from any other contract we would have from Power School. I know Mr. Weinstein talked about Power School buying up like everything, every possible software having to do with education, but this is not to do with what our students use for grades or anything like that.
Yeah, correct. This is a human resource department product that's used to, again, for the purposes of some hiring and staff evaluation records, things like that. So it's a staff, mainly a staff product.
Yeah. At whatever point we're having to renegotiate things, it would be good, since Power School's buying everything up, to give them the feedback that it would be nice to be able to negotiate all the things we need to buy for them in one contract to see if we could get a better deal, since we buy a lot from them. But
we've had that conversation with Power School.
And they're not into it. Okay, well, I figured I'd try.
Is this
that doesn't mean we can't do it again.
Is this something through the MCIU that because I believe some people go through the MCIU for Power School. Is there any savings to be found that way?
Vic, I don't know if you want to jump in on this.
Yeah,
Kind of-
every school district's different as far as what power school products they use. So I don't believe there's any type of purchasing power we can use with all the other schools. Because we have, somewhat more sophisticated software program, particularly in HR, than some other school districts do. I don't think it would work.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Kimberly, Jason, any questions?
I just
No,
want to make
thank
sure
you.
that from an HR perspective that this is a product that you guys have been happy with, and that there's no need to switch to another one that is that provides additional resources that would make the functioning of HR more efficient or better.
I think we're always considering products out there that might do the work better. Right now, we wouldn't recommend a change. We just have been going through a pretty extensive change to our payroll system that's been really involved. So you kind of take a chunk of that at a time. So I think this is something in the future we can look at, but we're always, where there's opportunity to explore what, other districts are using and update a different feature. We're always in the market to try to do that. But we're basically satisfied with what this delivers at this point in time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Kimberly, you had something?
Well, just a comment, because I think we discussed this briefly on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, if this came up. But I believe that Power School and a couple of other products that we use are owned by a private equity company that is in the process of buying up all of these different packages. So there won't be very much competition.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, Kim, to clarify, I remember you asked if it was part of owned by private equity. I don't know if we got an answer on that. We just know that
I
Power
did
School
get an
bought-
answer. I did
You
get an
did?
answer because I looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and you showed it to me.
Oh, yeah,
I
great.
can concur.
That's the way all of these things are going, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Okay. But regardless, it'll be good to move this forward. Oh, seems to be no questions from the community up. I see no hands raised, so.
I'm good to move it forward.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. And on to Mr. Catalano. Hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. More switches.
Yes, good morning. This is the first of 4 items I have this morning for the board. Thank you. This is unique to the switches we bought last month. These are approximately 10-year-old end-of-life switches. These are rugged outdoor switches, 3 for Lower Merion and 2 for Harriton. They support items like our press boxes, our outdoor cameras, and some of our maintenance equipment. These are end of life, which is why they're coming up for renewal. Working with our provider, Presidio, we've got wonderful pricing here, and this will support, as I said, all of our outdoor equipment for our press boxes, etc., things outside. So these lasted us a long time. They did a really good job for us, and unfortunately, they're out of life. We won't be able to get software updates for them anymore, so it's necessary to upgrade these at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
I had one, just because I know that based on what we've talked about recently about previous Switch purchases and that they're a big expensive price ticket, just so we can get a ballpark, how many more of these Switch purchases, network Switch purchases, can we expect through the rest of the year?
I believe this is it. I've only been here 6 months, but according to our obsolescence plan, next year we would have distribution layer. That would be it for this. No, we move those up. So there wouldn't be anything for next year.
Great.
And in 27, 28, we would back to core and data switches, which ballpark looking at about 150 based on current pricing. So nothing for next year.
Okay. As long as we have that. Yeah, as long as we don't have to get hit with this again. It's just, I know they're completely necessary, and I know the prices you guys are getting are completely market rate but it's a hard, a hard bill to swallow on that one. So I appreciate the break.
But this makes everything work in the background. We
Oh
need
yes, I know. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's worth saying that our computer systems do not work without these network switches. I was interested enough with this that I went home and talked to my computer engineer husband for about an hour about these after our last meeting just to nerd out about it. So I totally understand the value. It just hurts to sign the check. So thank you for that.
We're very fortunate. These lasted us almost 10 years. That's where I
That's
came
really great.
on a 5-year cycle, and these lasted almost 10. So that's fantastic.
Fantastic. Appreciate your hard work.
Any other questions from the board?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
No, thank you.
Right. I have a curious question. Does the technology, with these switches, they are the backbones of just every large system. Does the technology get better when we buy it, or is it just that, and is there an obsolescence, or for lack of a better word, if I'm making up a word,
Obsolescence is the word you're looking
obsolescence. Thank you. I made up my own word. Everybody use it.
I mean, I liked it.
This will support our 10 gig backbone. We always look for growth. We always try to have more than enough. These are also the rugged versions, so they'll be able to withstand the elements outside. And again, we're buying excellent equipment here with Cisco, and it's been lasting us quite a long time. Where I came from, we didn't get near as long the lifespan of what we're doing here. I'm really impressed with the infrastructure. It's wonderful.
So that buy quality, cry once kind of thing we're hoping for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Are we good? I don't see any questions from the community on this. No raised hands. So, are we good to move this? Or do we have another one for you too right afterwards?
I have
You
three
actually,
more.
yours, three more. Why don't we go through all of yours and or all of yours, and then we'll talk about moving them forward.
All right. This item is related to cybersecurity. These are our Albert sensors. This monitors all of our traffic at the edges outside the firewall, north and south. It looks for any type of cybersecurity threat, and we get real-time alerts based on anything in and out of the network.
We've been using that for a number of years, right?
Correct. Mr. Fraser put this in. I think it's a wonderful thing. We get real-time alerts. It makes us be able to be proactive instead of reactive. It's a wonderful addition for the security standpoint.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from the board on this one?
No,
Is
thank
this-
you.
Is this the kind of thing that will help us if there's some sort of data breach from a company whose product we use? So if board docs where we store all our information were to have a security breach, would that be something that would be protected by this, or is that another system?
It's a different system. That'd probably be our CrowdStrike system. This is looking for signatures, known threats that are out in the world, and looking for their signature, potentially trying to intrude. It's more for data breaches for our physical being here, as more are those systems that are outside in the cloud. They wouldn't be relevant to this.
Okay, so wait, when you say physical, do you mean like network storage that we have physically on-prem, or just anything that's part of the LMSD digital neighborhood?
This is looking at any traffic that comes in and out of our facility here.
Okay, thank you. And this covers like student and staff computers as well, or just like district maintenance of our systems?
Everything.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think Mr. Fraser once described it as something that's just sitting on the edge and watching all the traffic go back and forth and hitting and identifying any anomalies.
Exactly.
Mhm. Should we move on to the next one?
This item from Dell is our renewal of our Chromebooks next year for our 2nd and 5th graders. This is on the CoStar's contract, so we're getting the bid protected pricing, and this is essentially a renewal of what we've been doing the past couple years for replacement devices for our incoming 2nd and 5th graders, and they will stay with those students for 3 years on that 3-year cycle.
Thanks. I think the two are similar, so why don't we go through both of the, am I correct in that? The next one, agenda item, is very similar?
Yes.
It,
This is for our 8th graders and some of our teachers that are up for refresh for 1,195 MacBook Airs, and then our Apple Care, which is our warranty service and cases, and then as well as iPads for our kindergarten and first grade students.
okay. Do, any questions from?
Also, excuse me, I'm sorry. This
Oh,
is
sorry.
also the extended education discount pricing. I apologize
Okay.
for interrupting you.
Oh, no problem. Sorry for cutting you off. Are these, we usually have them set up in that. Is that part of these agreements, or is that going to be a separate agreement?
You're looking at it right there. See the deploy assist? That's for them to help us with White Glove. Correct.
Okay, white glove, that's it. I forgot the terminology. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
I had one, and
I
I'm
had a-
sorry, Mr. Catalano. I know that I'm asking a million questions. It's that you happen to have the big ticket items.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you and your department have been thinking about how potential tariffs might be impacting this purchase that we make every year for future years, if we're looking at like what kind of significant increase we could be looking at for next year's computers.
I can give my opinion. I don't know if Mr. Orlando wants to speak to this. From my perspective, the vendors wouldn't quote us for about
That's dangerous.
And then when the delays were put in, suddenly we were getting quotes, and it was pretty much on par with what we've been getting. I've been looking at historical numbers. So this year, it looks like we're right on par where we were. A slight increase on the Chromebooks, right where we were on the MacBooks. So I wouldn't be able to predict the future. I apologize. But
Yeah. You mean you didn't put a crystal ball in with this purchase?
But we're right on par with where we were, and with the delay, things are still the same.
So basically, we don't know. Cross our fingers, hope.
I think it's too early to say, Shayna, what the impact is of tariffs going to be, because obviously it changes almost daily.
Mhm.
So we'll have to see what actually ends up being, finalized.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was my.
It's going to impact all school districts throughout the country. So it's kind of too early, I think, as Mr. Catalano said, really to speculate at this time.
I was mostly just curious if providers were starting to get squirrely already. But yeah, I completely understand that that's not something you can predict. So thank you for trying.
I just had a quick question, Mr. Catalano. You had said that, so for the 8th grade for the new books, that's because they're moving in and then they hold on to that for all of high school, right?
Correct.
And then in kindergarten, it's for the new class that's coming in?
Correct.
The first grade, you said it was iPads, but isn't first grade would be iPads, or is that the Mac? Is that the Chromebooks?
I believe the iPads are K1, Chromebooks 2 to 5, and then Chromebooks 5 to 8, and then they get a MacBook in 8th grade.
So wouldn't the kindergartners that have the iPad for kindergarten use the same ones for first grade, or do we buy new ones after the kindergarten experience for first grade? How does that work?
I believe they follow them. I apologize. I've only been here 6 months. It's my first time through the loop, but I'm confident on the Chromebooks and the MacBooks. I may have to double check on the iPads.
Yeah, if we could just double check, because if they're getting them in kindergarten, I would think that we probably don't need to purchase them again for first grade, because they carry them from kindergarten to first. And if it ends up that they're getting their Chromebooks in first grade, then that's going to carry them through fourth. But if we could just double check that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and our patterns have changed with full day K coming in last year too. So there's probably more kindergartners when we used to have a big influx of first graders. We'll see this year if there is any change, but it's right now the patterns. It's hard. I guess it's hard to predict. We need to see what the patterns are going to wind up under the new change.
So no
Okay.
issue moving this forward, Melanie.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for all the three. Sheena and Kimberly, same thing.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
happy
you.
to move this forward.
Yes. Thank you so much. And there was no hands raised for the community. And Next item is the playground.
Good morning.
Thank you.
On February 25th, the district issued a request for proposal for professional services for a district-wide playground assessment to 12 consultants. On March 28th, we received 8 professional services proposals. From there, we narrowed those down to kind of the 3 shortlist firms, and between April 14th and April 22nd, interviews were held with the 3 shortlist firms, with myself, Ms. Schaffmeister, Mr. Herman, and Dr. Vanelli and Mr. Orlando. Those 3 interviews were with Heckendorf and Shiles Architects, Land Associates, and Studio Ludo. And after reviewing the proposals, checking references, interviewing 3 firms on the short list, the administration recommends Heckendorf and Shiles Architects at a fixed fee of $70,590 to perform the district-wide playground assessment.
Thank you. Questions?
Jason, you were on the panel that did the interviews?
Yes. So I think the 2 things, one, I would just note, just so that the community is aware, Mr. Copeland as well as Mr. Lill also provided summaries, not of the interviews, but of all of the firms that had issued RFP responses to all of the board members, so that they had the information going forward. So I think that's important to just note as well. But yes, to answer your question, Shana, yes, I, along with Melanie, Mr. Copeland, Dr. Ranelli was on them as well as Mr. Lill.
Great. If you or Mel had some, just if you wanted to give a recap on this particular firm and why you guys liked it, that'd be great to hear.
Do you want to go first, Jason, or
No, please.
Well, before you start, I'd actually like to get a recap on what you thought about the other 2 as well. And if this selection is based ultimately on price, I'm curious to know that as well. Thank you.
I would say it was a contribution. We did look at all of the different facets. I found a lot of them were all very similar as far as what they proposed, as far as always considering when you want to know what's involved with an inclusive playground, what you are concerned about for entry, exit, sight lines, and how you create spaces that are that help with both for stimulation and also for kids that want to need to just quiet down and be by themselves. I'm right now I can't think of anything else to say. Jason, do you have?
Well, I would also, before we get to that, not that I'm not going to answer it, but I think since this is a recommendation coming from the district administration, I'm not saying that I disagree with it. I do agree with it, but I think it would be more in line to have Mr. Copeland kind of share those thoughts initially, since it's his recommendation. It's the district's recommendation to this committee. So I would like to start with that. Especially since Mr. Copeland has spent an enormous amount of time and energy, as well as Mr. Lill, getting to know all of the different firms as well as the information that was provided, and has been instrumental in this process.
Sure.
Yeah. Agree, Jason. Yeah.
I agree with what Ms. Schaffmeister stated already. And, public school experience, other playground or township community experience, and, what uniqueness and creativeness they bring to kind of that kind of separates them from others. Now, costs were spread kind of all over the place with these. And the 3 that we narrowed it down to, even between those 3, the costs spanned all over the place. And so that really wasn't the determining factor, even narrowing it down. At the end of the day, Heckendorf and Shiles was one of the lesser, cost-wise, but they hit, every box on kind of my grading rubric. in terms of experience with getting community input, township input, references. They all had, all three firms had great references, but Heckender and Shiles definitely ended up at the end of the day becoming what I felt checked all the boxes on my list completely.
Thanks for that overview. And just to clarify for community members, maybe that this is a RFP that was to take an assessment of playgrounds, make recommendations, and give us an idea of what it would cost to do playgrounds. And so when they come back to us, we would have what we need to put these into our in the queues for doing a playground, doing playgrounds. Right now, this district does not have the funds to do all the playgrounds all at once, but we're going to have to look at what we can do and what needs to be done based upon what this RFP will do. And I don't know if Jason or Mr. Copeland, do you have anything to add or?
Just to kind of summarize what is included in this RFP, they will, physically assess and inspect each playground for their existing conditions, survey the property, data collection, like we said, with township input, school district input, community input, and then they would, basically come up with a report of their findings, which would then include conceptual designs and layouts and recommendations for, future playgrounds, kind of what they would put as, I guess, more of an outlined time frame for each, and which playground, which schools fall, in order, as well as cost projections and kind of an overall long-term plan that we could then use to open up to a public bid for, manufacturers or installers for playground equipment.
I'm sorry, so would that include the cost of designing a new playground or no?
Conceptually, it wouldn't
Okay.
it wouldn't be construction documents, but it would be the, conceptual budgetary phase.
Okay.
It seemed like
And
the
so
only
would-
stuff that Shayna, it seemed like you would get, it's the design component of it. So you'd have an idea of exactly what this space would look like and the materials that we would be using. So the playground sets, it wouldn't include any type of permitting, any type of stormwater, any of that type of aspect of it. And then it wouldn't actually include the cost of purchasing the items and the installation of those items as well.
Right. So would we be likely to use whoever, like this company, if we go to them for this RFP, would then we be likely to use them for contracting that assembly, like the final drawings and the permitting and contracting it? Or would that be likely to go to another firm, or we don't know yet?
I would say we don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it was premature. I think it would be premature at this point
Yeah.
to make that determination.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know if you have any other questions.
No, it sounds really good, and I appreciate everybody's sort of in-depth going over of this and all the work that's gone into it.
So the one thing that I would like to note about, because we are discussing about moving this potentially forward, this recommendation to the board as a whole, is that I want to make sure that from a budgetary standpoint, as a committee and as a board and as a district, that we have either the funds or that we have a method in order to move forward after we go forward with these services to start the implementation of the playgrounds. Now that could look like whether it be one playground over the next year for the next 10 years, it could be 5, next year. I mean, I think that's, a recommendation from the district, but I think that what I don't want to happen is that we spend this type of money, $70,000, to get all of this information, and then it just sits there, and then by the time that we go to look at it, it becomes outdated with, the whether it be that the equipment becomes outdated or there's updates to it. So what I would like to find out before we go to the board is how we expect, once we come back with this, we have an idea that the cost of each playground is probably going to be somewhere, or at each school will probably be somewhere around $1 million. Probably a little bit more, depends on how big the playground is. But I would like to know from the administration, and it doesn't have to be today, but I think before, potentially, one of the ideas is before we bring it to the board, as a whole, to vote on moving forward with this, is that do we have a plan from a financial standpoint on how to implement this? Because I think that that's an important piece of this going forward.
So Jason, I'll answer a little bit. And everybody knows this is my first full week here. I think it's from watching from afar. I know the importance of this to some people on the board, the community. Not only that, but the children it would impact. So for the amount of money, and yes, it is a lot of money to ask to spend, but we get a really good bang for our buck for with an understanding of what we're in for. Not only that, but an understanding of the condition of our playgrounds now. So I know Mr. Orlando can maybe answer a little bit more about the plan for that. But for us to get a clear understanding and at the present time to know where we'd be looking at when it comes to the cost and which one would take priority. Again, I think the $70,000 is a really good bang for our buck to get all of that information so we could then make clear decisions on what's next and where we get the money from.
Thank you, Dr. Rinelli. Appreciate that overview. And we do like to challenge you.
No, as long as, I mean, my only thing is I just want to make sure that there's a commitment from the administration and from the board that we're going to move this forward, however way that might look, whether it be a plan over the next, I think some of the other districts have done it over 10 years or, so as long as we're looking to advance this, I think then we can move forward with it. I just didn't want to be in a place where we spend the money and then it just sits, and that we don't put together a plan. I mean, I think the other thing we talked about this through facilities purchasing is the field in between Bala-Cynwyd Middle School and Cynwyd Elementary School. What those renovations would look like, along with the track, both in dire need. We haven't revisited that aspect, but we've spent the money to get an understanding of what needs to be done there. So I appreciate Dr. Rinelli the information, and I don't know if anyone else has any other questions, but I'm comfortable based on Dr. Rinelli's comments of moving potentially this forward.
Thank you, Jason. Shayna, Kimberly, do you have anything?
I don't have any questions, but I think before we officially say we can move it forward, we should hear from the raised hands in the community.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
course.
Definitely. Yeah.
Of course.
We have Tanya Schreiber first.
Yes, I know that. Thank you. When we discussed this last, we talked about the fact that we were going to assess the entire outside area of each property to ensure that they were ADA compliant to the 2010 standards. And yet, when I look at this presentation, it talks about the site civil surveying, and it only mentions doing Belmont Hills because that doesn't have digital data available. And then it talks about doing a topography survey of Cynwyd Elementary, but it omits the other 4 schools. So I know that we talked about, or at least I talked about the need to kind of do an assessment of whether maybe not, there's playgrounds, but then there's also something called play spaces or asphalt play spaces and the paths to and from them. And so now that it's more defined, it looks like the scope and the scale of this project very precisely outlines what's going to be measured. And I'm concerned about what's excluded from that because it doesn't seem to align with what was discussed in earlier discussions.
Mr. Copeland, are you able to answer?
Yeah, so I do think those two schools are specifically called out. Now, you'll see in the proposal they will be working with Chester Valley engineers. We use Chester Valley engineers for a ton of our survey work throughout the school district, a lot of them being um, uh, like Mr. Herman just mentioned, in between that field, in between Kinwood and Val Kinwood. So we use Chester Valley. They will partner with Chester Valley, who already has the survey work for most of the properties in the district. So I think they noted specifically Belmont Hills because Belmont the provided site plan and CAD drawings are super outdated for that school. But overall, with the RFP, it is included for them to survey the entire outdoor space for accessibility, ADA ramps, pathways. So that is all included. I think they just were calling those properties out because of the state of the CAD or surveys they have at this point through Chester Valley.
Can you
Okay.
point me to where that's kind of listed out? I may be missing it, but it really looks like that's the assessment's only going to be done on those two properties, and the other four it won't.
It will be. I'd have to look more into that section, but I know it's not excluded. All surveys for each property should be included.
No, it's whether or not all the surveys will be reviewed by this external third party to ensure ADA compliance for all 6 elementary school properties, the outsides. So we have the maps for all 6, but getting the fresh set of eyes on all 6, which should be like a really quick review. If all 4 are like totally squared away and perfect, it should be a quick review for an expert, right?
Correct. And I believe that's stated in their proposal that the other elementary schools will be basically re-reviewed because they already possess all the data that they need survey-wise.
If you look at, sorry, if I might just jump in, if you look at under phase 1, if you go down to on page 8 of the proposal, under 3 site civil surveying, the third large bullet says at all other elementary schools because CVE, which is Chester Valley, possesses existing digital data due to past work and project CVE will, and it looks like prior survey, it says perform a limited topographic survey, and then it says prior survey data of existing conditions for the site prepared will be utilized for the base mapping in AutoCAD. CVE will update the base mapping, site boundaries. So it says all other elementary schools.
Right.
So that's the expectation. I mean, we will.
Wait, but it doesn't say they will then assess it for ADA compliance. That's the missing line.
Okay. Can I make a suggestion that we, Mr. Copeland, can you find out this information and that can be part of if we move this forward for Monday night that we bring back?
Of course.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one more question for Mr. Copeland. I'm just curious, should we anticipate the total cost from start to finish to be between $6.5 and $7 million?
To install playgrounds? Is that what you're asking?
No, for the whole thing, for the architect as well as, getting the playground equipment, installation, everything. I'm just trying to understand what we're ultimately looking at.
Yeah,
I know it's several different, pieces.
Throughout the interviews, we had asked, without actually getting into even budgetary phasing of this, what's a ballpark? And we've been given the roughly around $1 million per school, based on, the escalation may look like over this 5-year plan that we have in the RFP. And they may get into, after their surveys, if there's any stormwater management or any other kind of township permitting standpoint issues, those costs may be higher or lower. So I think that a safe range of, up to around the $1 million mark per school is what they were kind of ballparking off the top of their heads. They haven't even done the survey work to be able to tell us a budget at this point. But yeah, somewhere between, $1 million per school over a 5-year period is kind of the ballpark that they were giving us.
Kimberly, when
Okay.
they went through the information,
Okay, so
obviously,
what I'm
oh,
asking
sorry.
for is a total. So am I correct in saying the entire thing perhaps would be between $6.5 million to $7 million to complete 6 playgrounds?
I think it's hard.
Playgrounds.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
So 6 schools, 14 playgrounds.
Oh, so we have 14 playgrounds. That's even more. Okay.
Yeah. Over the 6 schools, there's 14 playgrounds or play areas that are being assessed.
So that's going to be even more.
No. I'm saying the quote ballpark number that they were giving us was about $1 million per school. So roughly $500,000 per playground.
Okay.
Up higher or lower depending on what other type of site work needs to go into that. But again, super preliminary phase right now. They haven't even surveyed the properties to give us true budgetary numbers. So this is all off the top of the head. I don't want to scare you type of numbers, but
no, I'm not scared about numbers. I live rooted in reality of numbers. That's why I'm asking that question.
So Kimberly, it was really hard for them, for the companies that we spoke with, to give us an idea. But what we wanted to do was make sure that we had a realistic expectation at what potentially could be the minimum, so that we weren't under the belief that each playground was going to be 150,000. We wanted to make sure that we had a somewhat of a realistic. So what they did was they put together, based on their previous experiences at other schools, this is the ballpark. But until they complete this assessment, then when they complete this assessment, we will have a much better idea of it. It also depends on what type of equipment we want to use, and how extensive of a development we want to do with the site. I mean, all of those play into it. But I think for just a broad idea, it's roughly about $1 million minimum, probably, per school that it would be.
Okay. Well, then I'm correct in my sort of preliminary ideas about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Seltzer also has a question.
Yes, Ms. Seltzer.
Hi. Adrian Seltzer, Winwood. Has there been an independent study of accessibilities in the schools? So are all the schools accessible for all children? I would like to see that happen before we start with, even though I think the playground idea is like fabulous, I also know we have a limited budget. But in the scheme of things, I would really like to know if there's been an independent study on the accessibility inside the schools or getting into the schools. So there's that. And then I'm following Tanya's question about where does it say, but it doesn't say it in the actual paper. I can't find it either about
Mr. Catalano is going to get that information and follow up with us on Monday at the full board meeting.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
So
And okay, go ahead.
as to building accessibility, we have not done a study because every building before it gets its certificate of occupancy is inspected by the township. And architects basically make sure that we follow all the rules. The code officials are very thorough in their development. So it's not something that needs a third-party study because it's already done through the permitting, construction, and architectural processes.
Well, haven't some of those schools been built decades ago?
Yes, and everyone has met the code. Anything that is like, we have 3 buildings that are over 100 years old.
Right.
When they are refurbished, they basically have to meet current code at that time.
But if they haven't been refurbished, then they're not meeting code?
I mean,
Again,
Oh,
I'm clearly stating that the buildings meet code for accessibility.
and I have to say, when we had all the influx of students, there was so much work being done at all the schools to make more space for more students that those most likely
okay,
have.
good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean,
That
and you
was
also the Black Rock Middle School, there is a student coming in who's, I believe, is in a wheelchair, and they're going, they took another look, not independently, but they took another look and saw an area where they thought they could make it better. And that was like, I think we approved a ramp in an area. So it's something that's being constantly looked at.
I'm really glad to hear that. I just, as a taxpayer, as much as I feel that the accessibility is like a fabulous thing, what is going to be cut to be able to pay for this?
That is still what's being looked at, how we would fund this. And
Wouldn't that be something good to do before you start spending a whole bunch of money?
this is what we, as Dr. Ranelli just said, this is going to give us the information we need to be able to make an informed decision.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so are we moving this forward?
I am good to discuss this with the full board.
Okay. And Jason, you already said you were, Kimberly?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, great. We will move this to the board for discussion at the board meeting. Thank you.
And if I can just say one more on rereading, I was just briefly rereading through the proposal from Heckender and Childs for the survey and accessibility. The way they have it written it can come at first glance as if the accessibility survey is not included in those other schools, but if you kind of jump through it and read line by line, I can confirm, and I will follow up with them, but I can already confirm that the accessibility portion is included for all 6 schools.
Thanks for that input.
Melanie,
Oh,
before
and
we
one
move
other
forward,
thing, sorry, I was just going to say the one other thing was, Mr. Copeland, that we forgot to mention is that as part of the proposal, it also includes bringing in a third party or through that firm an evaluation of all of our current playgrounds, just to make sure that they're safe and that there's no issues with any of them. So I just want to make sure that that's known to the community as well. As part of this fee, they're going to evaluate all of our current playgrounds to make sure that there are no issues with them that need to be addressed.
Correct.
sorry, there are a few comments in the chat feature that are in reference to the playground. Would you like me to do them now or later?
Why don't we just do them now since they're related to the agenda item?
Okay, Karen Crivet from Narberth is in support of accessible playgrounds. Susan Tachu from Bala Kingwood, strongly in support of accessible playgrounds. All of our children must be able to play and improve their health. HSA includes accessibility features in their school playgrounds, noted on their website. Stana Gardner of Ardmore, I am also strongly in support of accessible playgrounds, great playgrounds and HSA's RFP. I urge the board to implement this in the 5-year timeframe outlined in the district's RFP, prioritizing schools that barrier-free first. Also, is HSA's RFP PDF somewhere the community can access? That should be on board docs. And that's it.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, so we have one last item, and the roof conditions. Mr. Copeland, is that you again?
No, it's me this time.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Can I just ask before we get started, if anybody from the community can look down and see that your microphone is on, if you could go ahead and mute yourself while we have a speaker giving a presentation. Thank you.
Good morning again. Back in the winter, we contracted with Roof Systems Consulting. The detailed reports looking at the DAO and the 2 high schools for roof condition, longevity, potential budgetary concepts was done this spring through roof scans. The board in their packet last weekend should have received the 3 detailed reports. Again, they're very detailed. We're not necessarily going to go over all those idiosyncrasies of the 3 buildings. But we have Mr. Frank Malore with us today. He's a principal with Roof Systems Consulting, sorry. And ask him to, before we go through the presentation that's up on your screen right now, just to kind of give his summary of what he saw, what he observed, and his overall recommendations, just briefly, and then I will go into the detail of the PowerPoint. Frank, are you there to come on board? Going once.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Frank.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay,
yes.
Thank you. Good morning. We did a survey and assessment on the 3 buildings for the school district. We began with the administration building, which is a historical restoration building going back to 1930s, I believe. The roof on there is a modified bitumen roof system, which has been repaired and maintenance work performed on it over the years. The latest being in 2017 when they started putting on silicone coatings on top of the roof. The roof is not really repairable in that once you get involved with silicone coatings, the only thing that will stick to silicone is silicone. So any repairs that have to be done are going to utilize silicone. On those roofs, the 3 roof areas, there's the lower portion in the front, the main roof up top, and then there's 2 roofs in the courtyard area there. Those roofs would have to be removed down to the structural roof deck, insulation installed, and a new roof system. In addition to the roofs, there's some considerable amount of deterioration in the sandstone siding panels that are on the towers that are the tower that goes above the roofs. That will be a portion of the roof that's going to have to be done. That's going to have to be done before they do the roof so that they can so that they're not working over finished roofs. We'd estimate the total cost to replace and to remove and replace that total roof is going to be between right around $2.5 million. It's going to involve scaffolds. It's going to involve the masonry restoration work. It will involve plumbing, and it will involve a tapered insulation system in order to divert all the water to the drainage. it's a big job. The next building we went to, does anybody have any questions on the administration building while I'm there? Okay.
I
The
had
next-
one question. I'm sorry. If you're saying that there's silicone on it and it can only be repaired with silicone, does that mean you're proposing a silicone repair, or is that not an option at this point to do further silicone repair?
No, I believe Frank stated that that would have to be a total tear off. He's just stating that because there's silicone on there, any repairs we do in the interim would still have to be silicone.
Okay, I understand.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so we'll let Frank get through the next two sections, and then I'll be happy to answer questions after that.
Okay. We'll go on to the two high schools. Two high schools were built a year apart. The first one being Harrington, I believe, and then Lower Merion. These are an unusual type of roof system in that there's a metal roof deck, and the insulation above that is a lightweight insulating concrete, which means it's a concrete with insulation built into the concrete. It's not a typical installation where you would have board insulation on top of a roof and then a roof membrane on top of that. This roof system, the insulating concrete is the surface that the roof membrane is attached directly to. So when it comes time to re-roofing these, the insulating concrete is going to remain, and the new roof covering would go over top of the existing concrete. We've done similar projects on another school district where they have a high school with a similar type of construction. Those roofs, they started to replace those roofs right after the warranty ran out on the roof, which is about 20 years after the installation. In this case, you'd be starting to re-roof both of those high schools starting in around 2030 and 2031. The roofs, both buildings, if you look at the building itself, when you look at a satellite view of it, they have 17 different roof areas on each building. So you would go about it systematically replacing sections at a time. That's similar to what we've done over at Hatboro Horsham, in doing 2 or 3 roof sections at a time and spreading the complete removal of the roof and installation of the new roof over a period of 6 to 8 years. I think that would be doable with both of those installations. What is going to be required is that we recommend that the in-house staff does periodic inspections on the roof, particularly in the spring and the fall and after heavy storms, and that we do an inspection on each one of the roofs about every other year. We would be noting physical damage that's caused on the roof for repairs, and another item would be any wind damage that might occur as far as delaminating the roof membrane from the insulation itself.
Do you have any other conclusions before we move on?
I'm sorry.
Frank, do you have any other conclusions you'd like to share before I move on?
I would say both the high schools are in fair condition, in good condition, and that they should last for the duration of their warranty, which would be a 20-year warranty, which would be 2030, 2031.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Before I go into the presentation, any board members have questions for Mr. Malor?
When you mention 2030 and then you say we do the construction over 5 to 6 years, does that mean it starts in 2030 or it finishes in 2030?
The warranty on those roofs is up in 2030. I'm saying that I would suggest that we begin thinking about replacing them in that year.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then spanning it out over them from them on. I don't see any reason with proper maintenance on it and inspection services that they should last for the duration of the warranty.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
When you say warranty, what do you mean by that? Do we, like, if there's a problem with it during that time period, it could be fixed at no
You have
cost? Or when you say, what do you mean by warranty?
on the two high schools, it's warranted by the roofing material manufacturer, it was Carlisle Syntec. They have a leak warranty. If you have a roof leak, we call it in. It will be repaired if it's a material failure or workmanship failure to be repaired as part of the warranty obligation. If it's just an aesthetic warrant, if it's just an aesthetic problem with that, a wrinkle in a sheet or whatever, it's not covered. It has to be a leak warranty. But they'll maintain that warranty for the duration of their time, which is 20 years.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. And then does that also include labor?
I'm sorry.
Does that also include the labor to replace it if there is a leak?
Yes, yes, material and labor warranty. You bought that when you bought the roof.
Okay. And do you service that as well?
I'm sorry.
Meaning, if there was a leak and it needed to be replaced under the warranty, do you perform that work, your company?
No, we're not a roofing contractor. If
Got
you
it.
contact us, we would contact the manufacturers, recommend a contractor that we want to use to do the repairs, meet them out there, and then document it into your roof management program.
Okay. And then, sorry, the last question is the administrative building, does that have a warranty on it?
Which one, the administration? No,
Okay.
just both the high schools. The two high schools have a 20-year warranty from the date that it was installed.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
On a side note, I don't know if we know this, but the Balconwood Middle School, does that have a warranty on it?
You did not look at that.
I'm not familiar with that, John.
Does the administration know?
Yeah, there's no warranty on it.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Frank, thank you for your time. Appreciate the reports. And I'm sure the board will review them in detail. I appreciate you coming today.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have a presentation. It will differ slightly from some of Frank's assessments based on our experience and how we generally will do projects. One of the things he recommended with the high schools is to do roof projects over multiple years. We try not to do that because whenever we're doing any roof projects, that school becomes unavailable for any summer projects. And if we had both high schools a year apart, overlapping with each other, that would take those two high schools out of summer programs. So we have different approaches, and Frank has been very helpful in terms of what his view has been. But we are going to likely move in a different direction from an operations standpoint. So we can go back to presentation. Second slide, please. So we've reported the complete. We've got some conceptual timelines. Now, these conceptual timelines are really based on how we approach maintenance and how we will try to guide the finance committee in terms of the need of money. And that gets us back to what we are projecting the cost. We've kind of taken Frank's numbers, taken numbers from recent projects we've worked with our contractors, and try to escalate those from a inflationary standpoint. That will be a shot in the dark because, as was talked earlier with tariffs and things, we really don't know what's going to happen, but we at least want to have a starting point. Next slide, please. So the board is not approving any projects at this time. We approve projects when we get a hard quote from a contractor based on either a buying group or a public bid process. At that time, that's when the actual money is dispersed. The timeline, conceptual costs are subject to a lot of changes. Obviously, we just talked about inflation, supply chains, and the cost of materials. With the DAO being a tear off, that one's got the most impact from a inflationary standpoint, since that will be a lot more material, and materials keep on going up. And basically, this is all part of the long-range planning for the infrastructure. We have more than roofs. We have buses. We have boilers and chillers and playgrounds and everything else that will need to get rolled into the overall mix of where we are. Next slide, please. So if you look at the detail of Frank's reports, he will talk about a recover. We usually talk about resurface. He had an approach that is one that I have not seen or used before. I would probably not go down the same path, and that will also be part of the reason some of the numbers will just divert. He's a Carlisle representative. He pushes the Carlisle product. And what he is suggesting in his report is not necessarily something that I would recommend to the board. The projects that we've done over the last 5-6 years are more the way I would lean. But when he says recover, he's talking about a resurface. Replacement is what he talked about for the DAO, a complete tear off. Generally, replacement costs are 4 times the cost of resurfacing, and that's why we would want to resurface or replace, or I'm sorry, recover the high schools before we get to the point where the insulation got wet. Sometimes you might have minor tear outs, but for the most part, you want to keep the insulation there. That keeps your cost down. That keeps all that material out of the landfill, and really extends your roof without major cost to the taxpayers. Next slide, please. So this is the bones of what the administration is really showing. The district administration, Frank said the roof is due to be torn off. We fully agree. The 2 high schools, he finds them satisfactory. We concur that they're satisfactory now. EPDM roofs tend to be the kind of roofs that you start seeing little problems and then a little more problems, and then they quickly get worse. In terms of where we are right now, I think our timelines with what Frank is reporting are pretty much in line. 28, 29, those are kind of when those things should happen. The district administration granting that there would be money available, we're kind of putting out in 2027. And the reason we're putting it out, even though it's probably due now, is that we anticipate that the following summer of 26, we would do the second half of the Ballot Kingwood roof. These are the numbers, and these are escalated based on the years that we're targeting in the dates. So basically $5.5 million for the DAO. That does include the masonry work that Frank had talked about, higher than just the roofing replacement. 6.3 million for Lower Merion High School and 7.8. Now, the first question will be, why do we have Lower Merion before Harriton? Based on the assessment that Frank did, even though the Lower Merion roof is a year younger than the Harriton roof, it appears to be showing more of the wear than Harriton. So we see that those, not just because of age, but because of probably more heating and cooling and more stretching, maybe more impacts from pollution compared to the Harriton roofs. That is really a high level overview of what we've done with this roof assessment. Happy to answer questions and dig into any details you might have.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say that I know that this type of like medium range planning for 5 to 10 years so that the board can look at upcoming budgetary expenditures has been a request of the board over the last year or two. And I just wanted to say thank you because I know that this was a process change and this is really, really helpful information to have as we're looking towards budgeting going forward. So I just wanted to acknowledge that work and express my gratitude.
I, if I may, I think this is great. Really appreciate the information. I think also knowing that we have a warranty, I think is fantastic for the two high schools. Um, and I appreciate you putting this together. The one question I have is based on what Frank had said and based on the fact that we're moving these back target date, the Lower Merion Harridan, does it make sense, and you might have already thought this through, but does it make sense maybe next year, or annually to have him or someone else come and inspect those two roofs to make sure that, that they're still in that satisfactory condition?
I personally don't think that is necessary. Um, we do annual inspections internal in the maintenance department. When we do our, spring and fall, we basically check the roofs ourselves. Um, I, I appreciate the work that Frank has done. I don't necessarily agree with his conclusions or his philosophies.
Okay.
Just a question that in the best world case scenario, if you do replace the roof because of leaks prior to the warranty ending, is there any discount that you get from a company if you do go with them because their roof failed before it was supposed to?
So there's lots of caveats in a roof warranty. They often will go to who the installer was, the product replacement. So if there is a defect in the material itself fails before the warranty's up, generally the manufacturer will cover that. They generally will cover the material on a prorated basis. So, if the life of the material was estimated to be 20 years and we've had 18 years of it, they'll cut out and redo that section, but they'll do it at a depreciated rate. The installers for both of the high school roofs, that company is out of business, which is often the case in public bid contracting. So Frank was very, very adamant. Oh, you've got a warranty. Getting that warranty enforced and paying out at full price is usually something that we pay more in lawyers to try to get something done than we have the value in the roof product. That has been my experience over the last 20 years. Usually the first 5 years, it's worth pursuing the warranty. At this point, I would not consider that a viable option.
Okay.
But
Okay,
Frank,
thanks.
as a Carlisle rep, is singing the company line.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is we have not had leaks at the two high schools at this point.
Okay.
So
Well,
that
that's
is
good.
a positive. And I would more likely, instead of waiting 2 months for a warranty process to go through while a roof is leaking, is have our guys do a patch on it.
Okay. Okay, appreciate your candor.
Is there do you have any recommendations over the next 3 or 4 years, as to what you would suggest us do? I mean, is the visual inspections that you said you do in the fall and the spring, do you think that that's sufficient in order to make sure that we don't run into an issue with those two high schools?
Yeah. Where EPDM roofs have problems is in the heating and cooling process. So generally in the summer, they'll expand, they'll move, but they don't really pop at that point. Same thing in the winter, they're either covered with ice and snow, it stays cold, they don't tend to pop in that standpoint. It's when you get the below freezing going up into the 70, 80s, you get a 40-degree swing. It's kind of like a rubber band. You sit there and stretch the rubber band 500 times, eventually it's going to snap. And that's what an EPDM roof is basically a big rubber sheet on top of the roof.
Got it. Thank you.
Apologies, I have my mute on. If there's no more questions, is there anything in the chat related to this? Because I noticed there's a couple more items.
There's one, I believe, just one from Miss Seltzer, Winwood. The almost $20,000 price of the roofs and the increase in cost for full day kindergarten leads me to believe that you have to have a plan for finding the money for playgrounds. This is not even counting the loss of federal dollars. Maybe we should look for grants to construct the playgrounds or have them sponsored by businesses. And I believe that is it.
Yeah, and actually part of the RFP is to see if they have any suggestions for funding for the playgrounds. So that is something that we've been anticipating. Yeah.
And
I
also
appreciate
Mr. Copeland and Mr. Lil have been doing a great job with exploring and looking into them as well. So I
Yes.
just to note that as well.
Yes, I appreciate that addition. So if there's nothing else, I believe that brings to we thank you again for this all these amazing work that done by the administration. There's a lot going into this one meeting, and we do appreciate all this information you're providing us. And our next facilities and purchasing meeting will be on May 15th, and we'll be at 9:30 again on Zoom. And we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Likewise.